Greetings, people of all ages, genders, races, and orientations. Welcome to CinemaTalk, the official podcast of RuleThirds.com. That sounds really weird to say now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we change it? I feel like it would be appropriate to change Rule Thirds to something a little bit more fitting, right? Because one of us is gone for a while, so maybe we should change it to Rule Seconds.
Yeah, it sounds like a restaurant. Like, you get seconds. That's the rule. Or
yeah,
I'm gonna open that downtown.
Downtown where, Sean? I mean, it's downtown Internet
everywhere.
Lane? Okay,
just
yeah.
in general, your town, just go down and you'll find Rule Seconds.
Exactly. So, bad joke aside, today we're going to be talking about movie duos and what we love about them. With that said, my name is Max.
And I'm Sean.
Sean, I feel that we need to head to the lobby, not just because we always do, but because we need to think of some new names for this website, just to make it more fitting. Come on, let's go.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
What about Rule 2s?
Two's rule.
Two rules, because we too do rule.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
There it is. Lightning in a bottle. Patent that. Patent. Trademark, whatever.
Two rules. Two
it's
rules.
A great name.
2 rules of 2rules.com. You make good content and you never leave. You always watch our content. Don't unsubscribe. Don't unlike, uncomment, unshare on any of that. You always do more stuff, which you should definitely do on 2rules.com. It'll take a while to get used to that. Anyway, so Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yes.
Cool.
Thank you for asking. Your concerns.
We've kicked off July, the month of July. It's gonna be sort of a more quiet time before the big releases happen later on in August, especially with a certain movie that just had a trailer come out specifically for the UK, and you just did a preview on that.
Yes.
Are you done?
No,
Yeah.
I'm never done with the Ooka Chaka guys.
Which goes into what's on the site. So yeah, we got a brand new preview, which Sean wrapping up his series on the Guardians of the Galaxy trailers.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the first time that you've like talked about three different trailers for movies.
Yeah, this is the first I followed an entire series of trailers, which was really fun, and it's sad to see it go. But
and it's good that you weren't always like, oh my god, it's this Marvel movie trailer. Oh my god, you were not like you weren't. You were focused on deciding whether or not it was good. Because not everything that we geek out about is good, right?
True.
Yeah. So, you should check that out. On Saturday, I did a recommendation Domination on 22 Jump Street. Yes. I enjoyed making that a whole lot because I was able to talk about 2 childhood favorites of mine. You'll have to go see and find out. You've seen one of them. You may not have seen the second one. Or the first one that was the first, the second, whatever. You may not have seen one of them.
That was probably the most confusing hint ever. Yeah.
And then yesterday, we had something brand new go up. Tuesdays seem to be like our brand new show days, right?
Yes. It's exciting for me. I launched a sub-show, a little sub-show of Purview. So go and check out its pilot, Purview Quick Cuts, Storm of the Expendable Sin. That's its name. It's the best name ever. So that name alone should make you go watch it. So go check it out. I briefly talk about 3 new trailers. It's fun. It's a new type of preview. I'm really excited to make them. So that's all. I'm excited. Go watch it. It turned out great, I'm sure.
Yes,
it's not like we're recording this before I've even filmed.
Sean, don't ruin the illusion.
Right. I mean, magic.
Today was a wonderful Wednesday.
Yes, it is Wednesday.
Yeah,
or
and,
maybe
can't
Thursday
wait for this coming Friday, Sean, because this coming Friday we got a review, a special July 4th special of the movie that's getting everybody to talk about, Transformers: Age of Extinction,
which I've seen as of recording. Max has not. I know what I think of it, but I can't tell Max. It's going to be a lovely surprise. But
I don't like take other people's opinion in consideration when I'm like watching a movie. But people have been telling me this is worse than Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. And you have to try to be worse than Revenge of the Fallen.
And maybe
I saw that for my birthday, Sean.
Wow,
I saw that for my birthday. Bad. I walked away from it. I was like, it's not a movie to be taken seriously. And like 3 days later, I'm like, I'm just lying to myself. That movie was utterly atrocious. So hopefully it'll be tolerable like the last one. Anyway, so with Larry being out of the picture, Barry, I'm going to call him Barry,
yep.
because I like Barry. It's a good name, good editor, good all that stuff. With Barry out of the picture, it's the two of us. And since we recently covered a movie that's all about the relationship and the partnership of two guys, Janko and Schmidt from 22 Jump Street, why don't we talk about our favorite movie duos and perhaps what makes them what makes the concept of movie duos so compelling.
Yes.
So, Sean, tell me, give me a movie duo that you appreciate, that you like to see on screen.
Well, to start out on the nerdiest of notes, I, of course, being a walking stereotype of myself, have picked a Star Wars duo, and that would, of course, be R2-D2 and C-3PO from the Star Wars franchise. Like I said.
Now, to clarify, when we talk about movie duos, we are talking about a duo of characters that are pretty much defined by the fact that they're a duo. These characters are not as interesting by themselves. Like when they're together, it's when it's when it's actually the most interesting. You remember these characters as a duo, not as separate characters teaming up. Not like Batman and Superman, because you know those two characters separately. Instead, here, R2-D2 and C-3PO define each other because of their witty banter and whatnot.
Because R2-D2 wouldn't have anyone to torment, I guess, and C-3PO would just be way too annoying.
I've always wondered what is R2 saying? I mean, he could just be like...
He seems very sassy.
Yeah, oh my god, he's the sassiest droid in the whole galaxy.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. Of course, there are all the fan videos of dubbing and...
Yeah, that's true.
The point is that their interactions are really fun.
Yeah, and they're the first two characters that we meet in the entire franchise.
Right. The first line of Star Wars Episode 4 is C-3PO, and the response, if you could call it that, is R2 beeping at him.
Yeah.
So what's kind of fun about that, it's like I was saying, their interactions are so fun. One of them can't talk. One of them we don't understand, yet it's still fun. I think that's really that shows how well it's kind of written, and I mean, they kind of have to cheat, C-3PO will kind of quasi-repeat what he said so the audience knows what he said, but yeah, I think they're a really great duo. They're the only classic...
they're the only two living characters who have appeared in all the Star Wars movies, and will most likely appear in the upcoming trilogy.
They've been confirmed.
I mean, you can't do... I mean, that's one of the cool things about this duo. You can't do Star Wars without R2-D2 or C-3PO, and you can't do Star Wars without R2-D2 and C-3PO. This duo is they're like the comic relief, and it's interesting how Star Wars, how A New Hope begins with the comedic duo. Isn't that interesting?
I never really considered that because it's Star Wars. I don't question anything about that movie. It's a masterpiece. But that is odd. You start with your protagonist, right? Mm-hmm. Or the random two comic relief characters thrown in the middle of a battle. And we see the villain way before we see the hero.
Yeah. Then again, I mean, that's
that's a different topic.
Yeah, that's a different topic entirely.
Again, we need to do a Star Wars episode.
We will.
We could do a lot of cinema talks on Star Wars. We are nerds, everybody. See, I don't have much more to say about R2-D2 and C-3PO, though. It's kind of on the border because I think R2-D2 could be fine on his own. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he usually, and sometimes he kind of is. Sometimes he's sort of become the mascot of the franchise to an extent. Definitely. I mean, Vader is the most iconic on the bad side, but on the good side, R2-D2 probably is the face of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It's very lovable, very recognizable.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So, I
included him because those two are almost always together. Yeah. And they are kind of defined by their partnership. And as much grief as R2-D2 gives him, I do like that C-3PO does seem to care. They have a good friendship there. So it's a good duo and great.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Yes, which I think is a very important part of the duo. So I'm sure some of your examples will bring that up too. It can't be all rainbows and puppies. That's boring.
Well, I mean, when I think about movie duos, there's really only one duo in the realm of animation that I truly think about a lot, and that's Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King. Mm-hmm. We touched on The Lion King just a little bit last time, and it is really one of my favorites. And Timon and Pumbaa are so famous; they got their own movie. Yeah, and it was a really good movie if you ask me. But it's these two are basically again the comic relief characters. Now I'm pretty sure we're going to be expanding into other territories, but Timon and Pumbaa I can't think of a time where I've seen them separately. Like I can't think of a single time where I just saw Timon or I just saw Pumbaa.
Well,
they are
yeah,
always
like,
together.
Pumbaa chases a beetle and then Nala attacks him, but that's for like 2 minutes tops, and then they're back together, and that's good. Yeah, they're inseparable. They're definitely defined. Like it's one of those things. It's like bow and arrow.
Yeah,
it's like you don't want to hear about just a bow. It's like they go together. So you don't talk about Timon. No, it's Timon and Pumbaa. It's one word. Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah, and it's funny, actually, Disney, I don't know when they did this, but a representative actually confirmed that they are a gay couple, actually.
Wait, so aren't they disqualified? Or I thought we weren't going to do...
Well, I think it's
couples.
a special exception here because, like, they are... Like, it's, you know, we won't be going after, like, you know, couples all the time, but this is a duo of characters, and when the movie came out, we did not know this. They talked about it later.
Okay,
so,
well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it's a great movie. One of my top 10 favorites, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And like in the realm of, you know, people, one of the most like well-known like I guess movie nerd facts is that The Lion King is based heavily off of Shakespeare's Hamlet.
Yes.
And Timon and Pumbaa are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern,
who die.
Yeah.
So
and they get their own play about it, and then that's what The Lion King 1.5 was all about. But I enjoyed The Lion King 1.5 because it had the main characters being themselves, like. You know, and they took the story, and I like what they did with it, especially. I don't know, what did you think of that movie, Sean?
I haven't seen it, but I just don't like the idea of a Timon and Pumbaa. Like, okay, I like Timon and Pumbaa, but in the context of Lion King, my favorite animated movie, except Up, I had to catch myself there. That was almost sacrilege, what I just said. Besides Up, compared to that, they're so... I don't know. Shallow isn't the right word, but like everything else, it's a very emotional story. I think it's a great story. I mean, it is based off Shakespeare, so you're going to be good. And so I just kind of have a natural inclination to not like a weird spin-off that focuses only on comedic relief. You know? It's like, would you watch a C-3PO R2-D2 movie? Like, maybe a short, like a
I believe they did that once, actually. I think they did that once. Something like that. Well, I feel like I've heard of it. But like, I think of... Like, Timon and Pumbaa, they got their own television show. Simba didn't get a television show.
Well,
Mufasa didn't. No,
Simba's
Timon and Pumbaa
king.
got their own television show back in the 90s. That's pretty impressive.
Well, yeah. But see, that's what's funny. We started off with two examples that are just comedic, and I don't think could stand up on their own. Now, if you think Timon and Pumbaa could, I haven't seen the show.
Me neither.
Maybe they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes dynamic duos should be in the background.
Yeah, sometimes. But Sean, do you have an example that is not comedic? Is not of a dynamic duo in movies that isn't, that is maybe a little bit more serious, maybe a little bit more like center stage and whatnot?
I don't know if it might be a little more serious. My next duo is Hannibal Lecter and Agent Starling from Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh, that's it. I like that.
Yeah,
I like
a little darker.
Thank you for reminding me. I should go see that movie again. It's great.
So why I like this duo is because they aren't one. Like every other duo you can think of, they're like working together and they give each other some, backhanded comments or jokes at the other's behalf and all that. But these two, it's more of a, I don't know, it's this psychological pairing that both of them benefit from in these really weird ways. But both characters kind of improve. They become smarter or whatever. Hannibal Lecter is kind of beyond improving as a person, but it's great to see them interact. And what makes it so great is that it's one of the few duos where it's kind of, you're on edge watching them interact, because like we were talking about, especially with our first two examples, it's like, here's our duo, they're going to act, you sit back, you're like, this is going to be a jolly good time. But with these two, it's intense. It's a very intense relationship that they have. And that's because, we're talking about a serial killer, for one, but also, he doesn't hate Starling.
Yeah, he just kind of, he thinks he
likes Clarice a lot, actually. Like, there's that line where he escapes, kind of spoiler near the end of the movie, and Clarice's friend is freaking out saying, we need to get you to a safe place, and she says, no, he won't come after me. He'd consider that rude. It's like, it's this weird respect.
A great point.
And that's what makes it kind of creepy. Starling goes in terrified of him. But then she starts learning from him, and there's a weird twisted respect that she has for Lecter, and then it kind of comes around too. He starts respecting her and what she does. So it's a really bizarre duo. I picked it because it's so odd. Because you couldn't, like, when you think movie duos, you think, like buddy cop movies. It's like, no, let's do Starling and Lecter. But anything to add on that?
No, I've always loved how Hannibal treated Starling. I think it was always sort of like a very, very high-minded, like, he was just this almost kind of mystical in how in how much he knew, and she was just trying to get to the bottom of this, and he was just always kind of either messing with her or just kind of giving really cryptic info, and I think that was really nice. I've always enjoyed the character of Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, mystical is the perfect word to describe like his kind of the way he holds himself, because the way they're introduced is one of my favorite shots ever. She's walking down the row of inmates, right, to first meet Lecter. Everyone's banging on their cells and yelling, and then she gets to the end, and the last cell is just Lecter calmly standing in the center of his cell, waiting. Just like it's that weird, like he
it distinguishes the character immediately.
It was a brilliant introduction of those two characters. Man, I need to see it too. It's been a while. I'm
it's on
really
Netflix.
watch that.
It's on Netflix right now.
Wait, really? To stream?
Yeah, I believe it's on
I might
Netflix
watch
right
that
now.
Tonight. Sweet.
It's a great movie. You should go check it out if you haven't. So I would almost say that doesn't count because Hannibal has been known like on his own. He got his own movie. He has his own television show.
Yes, but
then that would rule out my next pick, actually.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Sorry. Did not mean to
Well, wait.
interrupt
Did
the
you have a
transition.
point? Like, do you have a refutal against that?
Well, I mean, it's just when you think Hannibal Lecter, everyone's thinking Silence of the Lambs. Like that's the original film that made him a pop culture icon, the character. So yes, he got his own movies separately, and now there's a TV show, Hannibal, which apparently is very good. But yeah, I think it's fair because the original film that made Hannibal Lecter this popular character was very strongly defined by his relationship with Starling. So anyway, continue with your transition. It seemed like a good transition, so go ahead.
But it's good to get all of your arguments out and whatnot. So my next pick, again, might be breaking the rules a bit because people know one of these characters outside of this duo, but I think this duo defines so much of the movie that they start in, and I think, sticking with the animation, I think that Woody and Buzz are like, they define each other so much.
That was actually one that I was going to bring up, but I switched it out at the last minute, so...
Yeah, Woody and Buzz, like, if you haven't seen Toy Story, welcome to the 21st century. I'm glad that you managed to get that time machine working.
Go see Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story. The first Toy Story. If maybe you don't remember, but it was pretty much all focused on the relationship between Woody and Buzz. Woody being the traditional hero, and Buzz being the new age. And the fact that these two clashed so much, but eventually became friends, says so much about what the movie was trying to say. And I love how these two are so different, but they can still be buddies. It's really nice. Like, it's a great message for kids, especially. You don't need to have similar interests to be friends. Otherwise, if that were true, then Sean and I would be bitter enemies.
Which
all
we
the time.
are, but that's beside.
Yeah,
the
but
point.
we like to give them the illusion that we tolerate each other.
Right.
But
the illusion.
Woody and Buzz, it's really explored in the first Toy Story, and then the next one is more about Woody,
right?
And the first one is a little bit more about Buzz. These movies are so
I don't know what I would say. Like, the first one is definitely about their relationship, but the second is kind of testing it almost. Like, there's a lot of, Woody has to decide if he wants to come home or he has this new friend, and Buzz is kind of the big drawing factor for him to go back home.
Yeah.
And then the third, I don't know. I don't think the third is as good as 2. A lot of people say 3 is the best. I think 2 is.
I think 3 is the best.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
I mean, but it doesn't really explore that relationship all that much, though.
Come on.
It doesn't.
Sorry, what?
It doesn't really explore the relationship between Woody and Buzz that much.
Right.
The third one.
When you hit the third, it's kind of like the old married couple. Like they can exchange dialogue, snappy dialogue at points, if I remember, but there's no actual conflict in the story because of their relationship. Whereas 1 and 2, most of, if not all, in the case of the first film, of the conflict did come from their relationship. So that's why I think the third is kind of like a weird kind of that's kind of where you assume all duos will go eventually, where there's no conflict based on their relationship. Like, if they did a 23 Jump Street, I think those two have worked out all their problems, and it would be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, those
the thing
two
is,
would not
it's
clash.
actually interesting. The Toy Story 2 begins with Buzz on his own, and it goes throughout most of the story with Woody on his own. And even though these are two very interesting ways of going about, like, the story, it still makes a whole lot of difference when it's, like, the two are, like, best together and hanging out. Like, it's, you know, and again, it is also kind of a cultural thing about the age of, you know, one culture age of the Western being replaced by sci-fi. And you could argue that basically Toy Story is basically what happens to Westerns when Star Wars happened. They died.
Sure.
And they became irrelevant. And in Woody's case, he struck back. But that's for another time. But see, yeah, Woody and Buzz, they've always been like, these two, they've managed to strike out on their own. Like, I think at Disneyland there's actually an entire show dedicated to the Woody universe. And then Buzz Lightyear got his own animated movie and TV show.
Yes.
So these two definitely have backgrounds themselves, but when they're together, it's the best.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it almost didn't count, because we know these two apart, but they are at their maximum quality when they are, like, you know, when they're going on adventures together.
Definitely. And that's why the first Toy Story is so great.
Yep.
Is the focus on those two.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I don't have much to add. They're great. Go see Toy Story if you haven't. It was a classic for me growing up.
Mm-hmm. It's I'd say watch all three. Watch all three, and then, like, honestly, it's probably my favorite movie trilogy, because it's, you know, it like even the original Star Wars trilogy, what we talked about earlier, doesn't get as good as Toy Story, if you ask me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I'm about to shatter the illusion that we tolerate each other.
Yeah, I just
Those
did a mic drop and broke, and I'm sorry, and I gotta put it back together after the show. So, Sean, what is your second pick? Tell me about another duo of movie characters.
Well, we're gonna see if this part makes the cut of the podcast. It's a little unorthodox. It's kind of meta. We're talking about movie duos, and did we specify characters?
Oh, we did, but it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, I think I know where you're going with this.
I just, with recent events, seen 3 of their films in the last, week. I want to talk about Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Yep. Yeah, I had a feeling we'd see them at some point.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I saw 22 Jump Street in theaters, and I rewatched 21 Jump Street.
This gives us
a few days ago, Lego Movie.
This gives us the excuse to just freaking gush about how good these guys are.
So, here's what's interesting. It's hard to tell it's 2 people. So I wanted to talk about that. It really is.
I don't know, when it comes to, 2 directors, it's really hard to see, if it's supposed to be, 2 different styles going on. Because Phil Lord and Chris Miller are, if nothing else, totally badass at comedy. Yes. And it's not like we have 2 different comedy styles happening. It's usually either meta or just very, quick-witted and whatnot. So I'm not really sure, what the effect is if you have 2 directors as opposed to 1.
Right, and so it's weird when pairs like this happen. This is most common in comedy, I've found, because another example of this would be Matt Stone, Trey Parker, where they do everything together. And I always wonder, what is one like without the other? Like, we talk about the characters where it's like, oh, just would not be the same if it was one on their own. But that's because it's in a movie, we know all about them, but these are actual people that we don't know about. So it's interesting to think, what is a Phil Lord movie?
And what is a Chris Miller movie?
Right, and just without the other. Like, what is it like? I mean, you have the Coen brothers, and they always do stuff together.
Yeah.
The Wachowski.
The Wachowski siblings, they do
always
everything
do
together
stuff together. There are a lot of filmmaking duos, and I'm curious, what are they like separate? And is that worth it? Like, would it be really bad? Because sometimes you need the duo. It balances out.
Yeah. The more I think about it, I think I heard that Phil Lord is directing something by himself. In the coming months, and they're actually both supposed to be getting they're putting out a Fox television show starring Will Forte or maybe Bill Hader, one of those guys.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's their upcoming projects. But it's true. What are these who? I hate to bring up a debate between them because the only stuff we know about the only stuff we've seen from them is when they're acting as a duo. But who is the better of these two? Who really brings it, and the other guy brings the rest?
Yeah, the real question is yeah, I guess see, I don't know, there's this essence to their work. Comparing 21 Jump Street to the Lego Movie is ridiculous because they're totally different films. Yeah. But the comedy is really, really similar in its pacing and its meta-ness, if that's the word. Yeah. And so just watching this kid's movie, I guess all ages movie, and then an R-rated comedy, and seeing how similar they were, Like, who is that?
Yeah.
Is it just one? You know, is one of them really good at this comedy stuff and the other knows how to deliver it, like how to get it out of the performers? I'm curious about that.
And what, like, you know, and I personally think that Phil Lord and Chris Miller do a great job with set pieces and action sequences. Like, I think they do a great job of that.
You know,
is that one of them or is that both of them?
Saying, here's this set piece idea, and the other says, that's terrible. Here, in my head, we got this helicopter taking off, and...
Yeah. And with their, you know, and with their first effort, which I really appreciate, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, that and the Lego Movie both had very subversive kind of, like, you know, takes on the source material, especially especially in regards to the character of Sam Sparks in the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So with that in mind, who is driving that? Like, if you know, Sean, you can tell that, you know, Lego Movie and I don't know if you've seen Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, both were kind of, you know, a bit subversive in what they were trying to say, especially the Lego Movie. Is that one of them? Because they both wrote I believe they wrote, I know they wrote the Lego Movie, I'm not sure about Cloudy. I think they wrote Cloudy, pretty sure. But, I mean, who's bringing the subversion and who's bringing the comedy? I mean, like, you know, both of these things are very important, and I don't think that there's, like, one is more important than the other, but who brings what? Those movies are so jam-packed with, like, greatness that, I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of hard to think that they could do this on their own, but hopefully they can, and we're just getting, like, twice the awesomeness.
Okay, so Phil Lord and Chris Miller did story on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. Wrong.
Oh, okay,
wrong,
they did story on that too, and that was a good story.
Oh, well.
And yeah,
I'm looking at the first one. Give me a second.
Yeah, did they write Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs? I know they directed it. That was their first big thing.
Yes, they did. They both wrote. Yes, they wrote the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah. So
which I've not seen. Because...
Yeah, and I think you should. I think it's their weakest effort, but I also think it's really good anyway.
Okay, well...
yeah, so Phil Lord and Chris Miller, like, they are the duo right out there right now.
One quick thing. I've mentioned it on Twitter, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But Marvel is just dominating right now. R-rated comedies are dominating right now. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are dominating right now. Let's bring all three together. I need those two to make a Deadpool movie.
Yeah, that seems to be like that would be
the
their
meta
thing.
Humor, the ridiculous R-rated jokes.
I'm surprised they haven't gone after it already.
Scenes. Like, it's absolutely perfect. Marvel needs to just throw money at them until they decide to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it would be Fox who would make that call because they own all the X-Men.
Oh,
and
that's
the
right. So
mutants.
Fox, throw money at them.
Yeah, seriously? I mean, they are, but if I'm not mistaken, they might be under contract with Warner Brothers because the 4 movies they've made have been under Warner Brothers, so they might be stuck over there.
That isn't a problem. No, that's the old system. They can move.
That's true.
Anyway, I just wanted that to be the final note. We can go on to your final example, Max.
Well, the final examples is concerned. I'm gonna do a twist and ask you, Sean, what's your next duo? Don't tell anybody, but I can't think of one. I'm trying to think of one.
We only had 3. Those were my 3.
Oh, wait, those were your 3.
Yeah.
Wait.
I'm
on the last one. Well, crap. We've come to that point, folks. The bottom of the barrel. I can't think of another one.
Well, we could end on a high note. I mean, that was a good discussion. You know, we talked about filmmaking duos. Like, ooh, that's a more thoughtful topic. Why not in there? And this is a pretty hilarious little...
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm out of ideas.
Yep.
But I think it is good before we go to talk about why are we drawn to this? I think it's good to always talk about why we like certain things that we like.
Sure, that's a good way to end it. Okay.
So, yeah. All my unoriginality and lack of ideas aside, why do we love movie duos? I think it's a good question. It's kind of difficult to answer, right? It's, you know, they're not... It's not so much, you know, like, you know, we like them because... Like, they define each other. I believe it's always been like they define each other.
It's kind of, you have to... I don't know, I think it's a device for screenwriters or, you know, whoever's making the story. Because we wouldn't get much of Woody without Buzz there to show it. You know, like dynamic duos, you gotta show the size of people. Mm-hmm. You know, we would not see a lot of Starling if Lecter wasn't so incredible at just tearing people apart psychologically.
And we wouldn't see much of Woody's, like, more egocentric side if Buzz wasn't such a threat.
And we would have literally no idea what R2 was saying without
C-3PO. We can only interpret from that.
Yeah. So,
I guess the only exception to that would be Phil Lord and Chris Miller because we're not sure who they are. Like, outside of their, stylistic approach to
Yeah,
movies.
well, that
and
was
whatnot.
a oddball inclusion anyway, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
we're
true,
talking
but-
just characters. When you craft a duo, I think it is... And this is something that isn't just like an opportunity. It's like, oh, you could reveal a lot. I think it's kind of a necessity.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of having two characters around each other all the time, trying to make them a duo, if they don't bounce off each other and reveal characters, traits? It's kind of a necessity almost. So
People bring out the best and worst out of other people, and I think the duos, like they bring a much more layered character with their existence being right next to each other. Anyway, I believe that wraps it up for this relatively short episode of Cinema Talk.
yes.
Yeah. Sean, do you have anything left to say? Because
No.
man, we are just making time today.
Yeah, no, I think that went quite well. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to more of the two-person ones. It'll
with
be
that-
interesting to see.
Yeah, with that in mind, I think we should do a podcast on brothers in movies, or just siblings in movies. We can talk about Wachowskis and the Coen brothers and all that stuff. Yeah,
That could
and,
be a topic eventually, yeah.
Yeah, it was, like filmmakers defining, filmmaking brothers or filmmaking sisters. That's, I find that interesting. Anyway, guys, remember what's on the site this week. Remember that there's preview quick cuts and preview regular on Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a recommendation domination. And remember, before you head out to the fireworks, to watch our review of Transformers Age of Extinction when it goes live on Friday.
Yes.
So, with all that said, thank you for watching. I mean, listening, but you watched a picture on a screen. So technically, yes, you did watch. It was just a very, very boring video.
Very.
I mean, visually, at least. Anyway,
audio, but,
I'm Max.
And I'm Sean.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
For something we have not decided yet, but we'll get there.
Way to break the illusion, Sean.
Sorry.
Every time. He does every time.